your screen, the diagram, see an uploaded diagram, using this to explain the major vessels like we talked about. You have coronary arteries. This coronary artery supplies blood to the heart. Then, after that, you have the aortic arc, which also has branches that supply the head and the neck. The head, neck, and the upper limb. These branches are brachial, cephalic, left common thoracic, and left subclavian artery. We are looking at the major arteries. We've talked about the ascending aorta, coronary artery. We are now talking about the aortic aorta, where we have the brachial cephalic, we have the left common thoracic, and we have the subclavian artery, the left subclavian artery. Now, the descending aorta. At the thoracic part, it also has branches, where we have the bronchial artery, the oesophageal artery, and the intercostal artery. The bronchial artery supplies the lungs. The oesophageal artery supplies the esophagus, and the intercostal artery supplies the lips and the tissues of the thoracic cavity. I want to believe you, my friend, should be able to identify arteries at the thoracic level, at the thoracic cavity. Okay. So, let's look at the abdominal aorta. The abdominal aorta. At the abdominal aorta, the arteries there, they are either paired or unpaired. That's to say, if an artery is paired, we'll have a left and a right part. But if it is not paired, that means the artery is just one at the abdominal level. So that's why, for example, you have right renal artery, left renal artery. That's paired. You get it? So now, let's talk about the paired arteries in the abdominal cavity, that's the abdominal aorta. The paired include phrenic arteries, adrenal artery, which can also be called the suprarenal artery, the renal artery, and the gonadal artery. Now, there is something I do. Most of these terms might sound difficult, but what you have to do is to relate it to the organ that they are being called. For example, when I hear adrenal artery, I know that it has to do with the adrenal gland. When I hear renal artery, I know it has to do with the kidney. When I hear gonadal, I know it has to do with the reproductive organs, where we have the testes and the ovary. When I hear phrenic artery, I know it has to do with the diaphragm. You get. So, we are not just trying to memorize. Once you relate the name of this artery to their organs, you'll be able to identify them. Still on abdominal aorta, we are talking of the paired artery. And we said they include the phrenic artery, which supplies the diaphragm, the adrenal or suprarenal artery, which supplies the adrenal gland, the renal artery, which supplies the kidney, and the gonadal artery, which supplies the reproductive organs. Okay. Unpaired. Remember we said that they are paired and unpaired. Now, the unpaired these arteries are actually branches that are from the abdominal from the descending aorta, they now come down to the abdominal cavity now. So we now have these branches from the abdominal cavity. We have the right phrenic artery, left phrenic artery, right? That's what I mean by paired. Now, unpaired, that means just these arteries at the abdominal region. They include the gastric artery, the splenic artery, the hepatic artery, the superior mesenteric artery, and the inferior mesenteric artery. Okay. So now, again, like I told you earlier on, if you relate the names of these arteries to the organs they are supplying, it is easier for you to remember. That way we will not just memorizing them. So when I say gastric, we're talking of, that's it, even if you don't remember, stomach. When we talk of splenic, spleen. When we talk of hepatic artery, liver. When we talk of mesenteric, we're talking of intestine. That's to say that the gastric artery is supplying the stomach. The splenic artery is supplying the spleen. The hepatic artery is supplying the liver, actually part of the pancreas and part of stomach. The superior mesenteric artery is supplying the intestine, and the inferior mesenteric artery is supplying the large intestine and the rectum. Now, one thing about this unpaired artery at this abdominal branches of the abdominal aorta is that they are from a particular branch that is immediately after the diaphragm, just immediately below the diaphragm. They are a branch of coelic artery. So called coelic artery. Okay, so at this point, you've been able to identify the main or major vessels of the artery when it has to do with the thoracic cavity and the abdominal cavity, the aorta. Okay. So now somebody will ask, what of the names? Is it that blood doesn't get to the names? Of course, we are going there, we are heading there. Okay, now at the abdominal region, as the abdominal aorta, as it descends, as it comes down, at the fourth lumbar vertebra, it tends to divide into two. It's divided into two, where we have the right common iliac artery and the left common iliac artery. We get it. Now, at the point of the sacroiliac joint, sacroiliac joint, these right and left common iliac arteries, they splitted again, forming internal iliac artery and external iliac artery. Now, the internal iliac artery will go and supply blood to the pelvis and the pelvic organ, whereas the external iliac artery will supply blood to the lower limb. Okay, let's say that. Let me kind of repeat it. Okay. I said this artery, the aorta is descending at the abdominal level. We've looked at the paired and the unpaired artery. Now, when it gets to the fourth lumbar vertebra, it's splitted into two, forming the right and the left common iliac artery. Okay? Now, it's now continuing though. When it goes to the sacroiliac joint, it's splitted into, each of them splitted into two again, forming the internal and the external iliac arteries. You get? Now, the internal iliac artery will supply the pelvis and the organs, while the external is not the one that will supply the limb, where you now have your femoral, and all that. Yeah. You get it? So that's it with the artery. We've been able to look at the major vessels, and you, my friend, I believe, will be able to identify the major arteries of the major arteries of the aorta.